Thank you for showing up here today to this masterclass. My name is Jasper Steinhausen. I'm the founder of Business with Impact. I'm a consultant, and my specialty is to make sustainability profitable and thereby helping people to be able to do a lot more, create a lot more impact, and create better businesses. I've been working with and helping more than 10,000 people through through speaking, presentations, trainings, coaching, consulting, lots of different things over the years. Just needed to let a couple more people in. Okay, um, and and also I am the author of the international best-selling book, Making Sustainability Profitable, that you might have come across. Some of you, I know that you've all been following me for a shorter or longer period of time. So that's a bit about me and what I stand on. I've been working with anything from startups to global companies. I've been in manufacturing, I've been in service, I've been in private companies, I also help public ones, everything from government to local governments, national government to local. So yeah, so I basically covered a lot of things over the last 2 decades where this has been my domain. So I really look forward to sharing with you some of the key insights and help you with whatever questions you are struggling with at the moment. So why don't we get started? I have obviously a bit of a presentation for you, and as Michaela asked earlier on if I would be sharing this, I will be sharing the recordings on the back, so you can take a lot of notes, but you can also have a chance to come back and check it out if there is a need for that. So this should be the one to share. Could anyone just give me a confirmation that you can see my screen? Sounds like that. Roman, thanks. Perfect. All right. Where just another one to let in here. 1 second. Here we go. And here in presenters mode. So what I want to do is just start very briefly with showing you a bit about what type of results you can get by using my methodology. So it's a very brief case story. It's not approved yet by the client, so I cannot share all the details, or actually only these high level, and cannot share the name, unfortunately. But just wanted to tell you that this is a story about a company where they have by now an 80 times return on the investment made in having me around. They have elevated this game from being 2 people in one corner of the organization working on it to being 100 plus company people that are now involved. The 2 people that was kind of leading this, the head of environment, safety, quality manager, so the typical sort of type of all-included position, went from being practically unknown in the organization to being now sort of on first name, sorry, with the C-suite of the global head of the mother company, and last but not least, so far they've created 40,000 tons of CO2 reductions, and on top of that, a lot on waste and in other areas. So just wanted to share with you that people who actually go through and follow and use the methodologies and frameworks that I'll be sharing with you today, they actually get quite interesting results. And that doesn't really matter if it's interesting in the sense of financial, or if it's interesting in the sense of impact. So that's just to give you an idea about what's ahead. So what are we in for today? I have sort of 4 overall areas we're going to check into. Starting a bit with what is the reality of the world today, what's sustainability heading, and how do we address that? Something about the importance of choosing the right type of initiatives, then a block around mindset, and then the part where you especially need to roll up your sleeves and start to go to work, which is about what are the right next steps for you. and some tools to help you do that. So that's pretty much what we're in for. So let's start with the reality. What is it that as I see it, and then let me know if that's the same for you, if you recognize this picture about what is the reality for many people these days. As I see it, and the customers and the people I work with and meet, is that a lot of them has sort of on a personal side that it's hard to align their personal values. So they're standing in their personal life on choices they make in terms of what they eat, how they live, how they transport themselves, what they buy, and so on. Hard to transfer that into their professional lives. And that's obviously a pain point. If you cannot live your personal values, that's super frustrating. Second is this feeling that the world is moving in the wrong direction and that we should act more. So again, generally caring about and are disturbed a bit about where's the world heading, and that also leads to reflections about what type of life is my children going to get, or my grandchildren, depending on the age. I don't know if you have kids. I have three myself, and it's definitely also a thought that cross my mind once in a while, especially when some sort of new statistics or data come up around state of the world or what we have seen in the last year or whatever it is. It's hard not to get sort of hit by that. But then you have on the professional side that we're in a world where competition is increasingly hard, where employees are harder to engage and to attract. I saw updated statistics the other day that, or read in a book, I think it was actually, that only around 1 in 3 employee in global surveys say that they are actively engaged in what they do in their workplace. The rest is just sort of there because they got to make a living. So obviously that's a depressing number. There's also the need for innovation that is at all-time high, and this of course is back to the competition. So that's something that's demanded, and a lot of people I come across is also feels like they're not sure how to lead this sustainability thing, which again, of course, connects back to the personal struggle. So as I see it and as I hear it from the people I work with, and I train 300 to 500 leaders a year in this stuff as well, very often this comes up that, if I could only find a way where I could make a more competitive business that at the same time was part of making the world a better place. If I could do that, that would really be amazing. That's my dream. That's what I would really like to do. So let me just let's just start here by, I'll just pause the sharing here. Sorry, stop sharing rather. Here we go. So I can get you up and see. So do you recognize this picture? Does this resonate with you? Or is your life in a completely different situation? Feel free to sort of either put it in the chat or unmute yourself if you have something you wanna share, or feeling that yes, this is absolutely me.
Yes, I can share something, Jasper.
Please.
Actually, I fully resonate with what you're saying, because I'm also doing similar journey by aligning my own purpose with what I do. And I passed many changes and transformations along the way. And now I'm more focused to help others as well, as you said. So I'm fully aligned. Sustainability, circularity, pressure of technology, AI is galloping over us. Systems thinking, all together, I see a huge need. And then businesses and people behind businesses are not ready for all this to grasp, like to get clarity what to do. So they probably do either nothing or maybe wrong things. So I think this first moment of clarity and decision making, what to do, what is right for you, this is key, I think. If you can help us with that, then maybe we can talk about it more.
we're definitely going to come back to that several times. So if you should just on a 1 to 5 scale, all of you in the chat, it would be great to say 5 is yes, this aligns completely with where I am in my life, and 1 is no, I'm not there at all. This is not my situation. Could you just put that in? That would be absolutely great to give an idea, just to make sure that this audience kind of resonates with what what I'm going to give you. So it seems like that lots of 5s. That's good. Or I don't know if it's good, but it's good in the sense that what you're going to get for the rest of this time is going to be really well matching the world that you're living in. So that's really good. Let me just get you back here on the sharing part. So this one, and so you see my screen again? Hopefully, yes, yes, perfect. All right, so there clearly is a different. It's a different world right now with different priorities, right? So we have Trump. I won't need to mention him a lot, I guess, about what's going on there. There is the retrieval of, at least here in Europe, of some of our regulation with the omnibus that several of you probably have heard of. There is a increased focus and budgeting towards military and safety and threats and all of that, which is taking up a lot of focus also politically from the world we live in, where previously this was one of the big topics, and now it's kind of like there's a bit more of a backseat role for it. And we are facing this pushback altogether that a lot of people experience. Also, we have a lot of politicians across the world that kind of right now are poking on and basically trying to get the most out of the fact that some people are frustrated and all of that. So we see a lot of that. And then final thing that I want to mention here that is part of why this is all changed is also, at least here, especially here in Europe. So for those of you in Europe, I know a couple of you are in India right now, so it won't go for you perhaps, but focus has shifted radically towards competitiveness on the back of the Draghi report, based, ordered by the European Commission, where they studied what is the state of the European industry and the competitiveness, especially towards US and China. It comes back with this conclusion. Well, there were lots of conclusions. As you can see, it's a huge report. But what survived after a couple of weeks in the media is basically that we are falling behind on competitiveness. We need to make it easier and faster and simpler and cheaper to be a company, and we need to innovate a lot more. That's kind of what stands out at the base, and I guess a lot of that is also globally agendas that are focusing that we need to increase competitiveness in this world. So, of course, the big question really is that, well, then how do we get sustainability back in fashion? And that's basically what I intend to help you with in the next little hour or so. So hopefully that will be valuable for you guys. As I said, the Draghi reports move focus to competitiveness. So I made this very simple drawing to hopefully make it easy to remember that this is the reality that absolute majority of decision makers wake up with every morning, right? That sustainability used to be the big thing, and now it's shifted, right? So the balance has shifted, or maybe not sustainability was the big thing, but sustainability moved from a high important area, and it's completely shifted towards becoming something that also, because most don't know how to lead it, that is just like, yeah, we'll see where we go with that, or we wait till later, next year, next quarter, next something, right? So that shift is really radical. And today, competitiveness is king. There's no doubt about that. That's the thing that decides and controls the game. But the really, really good thing is that sustainability is actually a super effective way to to stimulate innovation and to actually innovate. And why is that, you might think? And the reason for that is actually historic, you could say. But in general, there is a very clear correlation between all types of impact and use of raw materials in some form, right? So whenever we dig something out of the ground, or we process it, or we transport it, or make products out of it, or use it, or discard it at the end and have to deal with that, that's where all the impact is, right? So impact is tied very, very closely to the use of resources. And use of resources is also extremely closely linked to spending of money, right? So when we use resources, we also use money. So there is a one-to-one correlation. And the thing is that today, almost all companies the leaders are looking strategically, they're looking at the flow of time and the flow of money. And there's a reason for that, because up until around 1950, they were also looking at the flow of resources. That was a critical part of running any business. But from around 1950 and until the oil crisis in 1973, what we experienced was that there was this seemingly abundance of material, and the price just kept going down and down and down and down. So gradually it disappeared from leadership literature, and then afterwards from leadership training, and moved from a strategic issue along the lines of flow of time and flow of money, and onto more something like cost of operations. So the thing is that today, just about all leaders that are sitting today in businesses and in governments and wherever they are sitting, all levels of leaders, they have never really been trained in working with the flow of resources as a strategic element. So right now, this is just cost of operations. It's something that a head of manufacturing, head of whatever they call themselves, will have on their portfolio. But because we've also had so much focus on the flow of time, there is very little extra time left, and they are so bogged down by making sure that the machinery is actually working and rolling, because we just sold another 400 units, make sure it's ready by in 2 weeks time. That's all they spend their time and energy on. So when I ask these people, when I meet them, I like to ask them if they have any ideas of things they could do that would that would improve the flow of resources. And they have, yeah, we have lots of ideas. Okay, when do you do something about it? Hardly ever, because I don't have time. Right? So we are in a point where nobody is actually strategically thinking about and working on improving resources, unless you are in a company that has this business model that is very high volume, very low margins. Well, then you have typically been fine combing everything to try to find, a few cents here, a few cents there, because that's the business model. Or perhaps if you've been kind of like on the brink of going down, you also have been looking for what are ways that we could cut costs or anything. But the thing is that everybody, all of you who has, I'm assuming, some sort of background in sustainability, you are trained to see and look at the world through that flow of resources, which means you have something that all the top leaders don't have, and everybody with a business background, a business education don't have, which means that by definition, if you look at page 2 of any book around innovation, it basically means bring a different perspective onto whatever it is you're looking at, right? And whether that's base of the pyramid, or moonshot thinking from Google, or blindfold yourself, or you have to go out in a specific way, and there's tons of more or less useful methodologies, but they all force on a different perspective to what you on the problem that you're looking at. So you are actually super efficient innovators if you start looking at the business problems and not just the environmental problems, but the business problems through this lens. Then you will come up with ideas that the other people don't see. So sustainability is taking a back seat. Competitiveness is king, and the way to get there is innovation. But guess what? Sustainability is a super efficient tool for innovation, especially in areas where they haven't seen before. But nobody gets that. which is why, we withdraw from sustainability when we're actually needing it the most, also from a business perspective. And that's one of the key things and the key levers to getting this back, is really to go out and do this, to prove that we can create better solutions through using this tool. More on that later. Right now, I see three movements going on in the companies that progress the most here. One of them, first one here, is sustainability move from a standalone issue to integration. And that's directly connected to what I just talked about. So rather than say sustainability for sustainability's sake, or because we have a climate target or whatever it is, it gets integrated into areas like operational excellence, like innovation, like cutting costs, like attracting talent, like and employees engagement, which again is strongly correlated with productivity, and so on and so on. So that's the first shift. So those who are good at doing this, which is basically just what I just talked about and what we'll be talking about a lot over this masterclass, they really succeed in this, whereas the rest, they perish and in worst case actually get fired. There's so many examples of companies that are shutting down entire departments, or at least downscaling them. So standalone to integration is key, but it also means that it moves away from a primarily something that leadership sees as branding, which they're also slightly afraid of due to greenwashing, into innovation. And that's a way stronger platform. And finally, the third one means that they move away from reporting and into action, because now, if we do branding, we need to report and go out and communicate, and we need to report to also have something to back our claims in marketing. Whereas if it's innovation and we are using this to create competitive advantages, well, the stupidest thing we can do is then sit our hands and wait to our competitors have caught up, right? You probably heard this a million times as well, that let's not get too far ahead of our competitors, right? We want to wait, because this is, again, seen mainly as a cost. But when you do this shift that I'm talking about here, well, all of a sudden this becomes a driver for competitiveness. And then you don't want to sit on your hand. You want to take action massively, immediately, as soon as you have something that works. So the three shifts here, which combine and are correlated, is from standalone to integration, which leads to this shifting from branding to innovation, which leads to this shifting from reporting to action. Right? Back to the places where we want to be, back to the dream. We want to create a company that is more competitive and makes the world a better place. This is really the key to make that happen. So I'm super curious to hear how this resonates with you. Do you recognize these shifts? Is it happening in your company as well, or would you like it to happen? Could you see this be beneficial? Anybody who's brave enough to come on and let me know what you think, or type it in the chat if it's like too scary to get in with all these people. What do you say? Let me hear you either in the chat or unmute yourself and let us know what's going on where you are. Anybody is brave?
Maybe I can say again. Obviously, yeah. This is the key. Innovation, in any way, is the key, and integration of sustainability and bringing attention to the value of sustainability to business goals, not to value per se, as you said. So,
yeah.
I think that these CEOs or other leaders, they need quick and strategic solutions to their own challenges, not earth challenges or people challenges.
Yes.
As we want. Yeah. I would like that the world is functioning in different way, but if not, then we need to help them. I think see how why they're not sleeping at night can be solved through sustainability, through innovation, I would say. Yeah. So all these three things, what you said, integration and innovation and action, are needed, probably in parallel or in harmony.
Yes. Yeah.
So completely aligned, with this.
Right.
And just this huge challenge of people entrenched in their own silos, in companies. They're not caring about each other goals, and CEOs are also probably not fully capable to grasp all together without they all need help, some kind of help, guidance, I would say.
Yeah, they do. Yeah. Swami, you unmuted yourself. Do you want to share something?
Sure. Thank you. Thank you, Jasper. Actually, it's really insightful. I'm with Capgemini. I'm a sustainability and analytics solution architect, and also I do a lot of pro bono consulting. I strongly believe in sustainability initiatives because basically it is not a overhead. It's not an additional overhead cost. It is kind of like a opportunity cost, I believe, because without sustainability, with all the natural calamities and global warming, everything that is happening around, businesses are getting impacted, because of which employment got impacted, because of which communities got impacted. So it's all, end of the day, it's all a lose-lose situation. So definitely we need to be the change we want to see. And I'm really kind of excited to know more from you. Thank you.
Great. Well, let's move on then. That's definitely, because there's so much more I want to share with you guys. So this again should be the one, and you see the slides? Somebody? Yes, perfect. Thank you. Here's a basic idea for you. One that is absolutely essential. It's been important for a long time, but in today's world, it's absolutely essential. So this is one. Impact follows perceived value. And what do I mean by that? Impact follows perceived value. So mark this is super important. And the thing is that our human brains, and this is just playing along with how the brain works rather than what we would like. So all of us, every person on the planet, every day, all the decisions, all the actions we take, everything that we direct ourselves to is our brains looking to trying to fulfill what it is we perceive as valuable. This is also known as what's in it for me. You probably heard that phrase a million times, right? So whatever is on top of their mind is what we try to make choices on the back of. And where most sustainability, also communication, fails is that it focuses on, that it's enough that this adds to sustainability, to climate, to preventing plastic, chemicals, whatever it is, biodiversity, it doesn't really matter what your agenda is. But the people that we want to try to sway and get to support this or accept it or buy it or make changes, could be in your own company, could be upstream, could be downstream, doesn't really matter. Well, if they're focused on something else, and as we talked about in the beginning, increasingly people are, they are not gonna act on this. So what you need to do is really make that translation and really be good at honing your skills at figuring out, well, how can sustainability be part of solving some of these problems? And the good news here is that sustainability, kicks in on a lot of the typical issues we can find on most leaders' plate. So stuff like cutting cost, increasing sales, increasing productivity, innovation, attractive partnerships, increasingly also access to finance and conditions for insurance, and lots of stuff that so many people struggle with or focus on already is something that we can bring value to throughout sustainability. But again, we have to make this change. And the thing is, so if I were you, one thing I would hone in on and be really, really focused on is what is the 3 to 5 biggest problems or biggest priorities in your company, in your organization, and who's your ideal client, and what is their corresponding 3 to 5 problems. Because when you try and look at those through your glasses, which is again these focusing on the resource flow, what do you see? How do you see you could be part of solving some of this? And when you do that, well, then that's what brings them their attention to you, right? So it's super, super important. And I have created this small graph, and I know it's just a cross, but it's a really valuable one. So I really hope you'll pay attention to this part and remember this. I call it the costing misalignment curve. And the thing is that on the one hand side, we have down here the upward going one. It's the traditional return on investment, or the traditional business case, where if you imagine all the initiatives that we have out of here on the horizontal one, all the initiatives you could possibly imagine you do, they fall on that line, and they will follow this line that some has will earn you money, that's below the line. Some will cost you money, or you could say some will have an attractive return on investment. Some are going to have an unattractive one. Scott, what are you saying here? That's a graphic software. All right. That is my beautiful hand. That's where we started. No, it's actually a friend of mine who's drawing this, but while we were discussing, and I was kind of like, yeah, exactly. It's not AI pretending to be human, but that's true. It's me pretending to be human. So perfect. Anyway, so that will fall along that line. So you all know the 80-20 rule, right? So the last 20% is going to cost you 80% and all of that. But what's more interesting is the other one, the perceived value, right? And this is where the starting point, if maturity, again, initiatives and maturity along this horizontal line is low, well, then the starting point is this narrative that is more or less globally. I've asked people, at least across all continents that people live on, and very, very few. In fact, I think, Scott, you might be the only one who said, no, I just read a report about it the other day when we talked not too long ago. But apart from that, everybody has kind of been saying, yes, I recognize this picture. And the thing is, they say sustainability is a problem. It's costly, it's bad for business, and we got to compromise our standards in so many ways. So that's the starting point for most people. And thereby, if we then come with a sustainability initiative that actually does have a long return on investment, so it will be maybe up here in that part of the hockey stick where it becomes really interesting. Well, that will just reflect exactly what their thinking is, and thereby not really being allowed, or they will stop it somewhere, or they won't be able to fund it all the way. So it's so important that if you're in an organization, or if you have clients that are in an organization, or in the value chain, you're trying to get somebody to help you do stuff, you need to figure out where are they in terms of maturity. And then if they're very early in their maturity stage or journey, well, then it's important that the initiative you choose to bring forward are the ones who has a really quick return. It doesn't necessarily, it could be that they have lesser of impact, but that's okay, because what we need right now is to earn the right to come up with business recommendations, because basically sustainability people today don't have that right. And if you yourself are, it could be you're in the C-suite yourself, which is fine, but then it's up against whoever you need to sway, whether it's the board or the rest of your colleagues, CFO, whoever it is. So we need to make sure that we can show quite clearly that this is actually there is lots of business opportunity. And I just mentioned in the beginning that company I worked with, where we had an 80-time return on investment on having me around. And that's exactly what we did. We needed to make the top management see that this is a good idea, so they can start to get approval for all the projects, which means that they have now saved quite a significant amount of money simply by turning waste into value or minimizing waste. So actually very simple initiatives, but highly, highly effective, which means they are moving down. Because the interesting part, as I said, that's this beginning, is that once we disprove the narrative, we start to get that maturity going. And the more mature you get, the more you will start to have additional value kicking in. First, internally in the organization, people get more proud to work there. And we know it's so well documented that if people are proud of where they work harder, they stay longer, they are more productive, more innovative, and so on and so on. So we start to see that. And then afterwards, as you mature even more, it starts to spread outside the organization and becomes part of your brand and your identity outside as well. That gives new opportunities for partnerships, for branding, and lead in the end to customer loyalty, which is why the stop completely dips out here. So there's basically, if you're mature enough, there's hardly anything you cannot make a positive return on investment on. So we have a question here from Scott. Yes, let me hear. What have you got?
Hey, and apologize for the bad voice and being off camera, but it's not a pretty thing over here. So
you're in the US, just for the rest.
Yes. So one thing, like as an individual in the system, I always think about, and I try to apply this to organizations, and I'm curious if this is similar or different from what you're talking about here.
Mm-hmm.
When I think about my own time, I think about what's my impact plus my cash flows divided by my time and the amount of money I put into it.
Yeah.
Right. I call that like my own personal total return on investment.
Yes.
I think that is very applicable for organizations as well. And I think that's adjacent to what you're saying, but it might not be exactly what you're saying.
Yeah. Impact plus cash flow divided by, as you say, effort and capital and materials. Yes, well, it is. And the thing is, the only thing I would add is that this starting point is, again, that's why I call it the perceived value, is if your starting point is that everything is related to sustainability is just a cost, it's really hard at all to get people to listen into it, right? And often the problem is that a lot of the people who suggest these initiatives are so driven by making an impact that they go with the ones that has the biggest potential for impact. And if that does not sort of support solving some of these bigger problems, I had talked about the 3 to 5 biggest problems before, well, it's really hard to get attention at all, and especially to get approval for it. So I think you're correct that your sort of personal little formula there in life also reflects back on what we've been talking about here. So, question for all of you: what's sort of your take on this model, and can you see that living by this will make life easier in whatever you're doing in your company? And you can either type it in here. I would love to hear a couple of comments, and then I can go from there. So if you would add it in the chat, or if there is a brave one who dares to unmute and say something, that's also perfectly okay. But I'd love to hear what you think, and if this sort of makes sense and something you can do that will something that will help you in some way. Perhaps even if you feel like you see initiatives around you that are not taking this into consideration and therefore not being approved or not being implemented, right? Because it could be, there's so many projects around the world that's kind of like a test case, right? So somebody sponsors it, but it never really gets scaled. I'm sure you've heard about that, perhaps even been part of it. Something hey, now we done it, here are recommendations for how to scale it. And then it's kind of like, yeah, but we will have to see. Or could you make a note on that, or what would that look like? Or let's have a look at it next year when we're deciding what we're going to do, and so on and so on. I'm pretty sure you've come across it. I have definitely come across it many times in my life. And before I started doing this, I've also been part of it. So definitely don't be shy to come out and say if that's the case for you as well. This is after all sort of the majority of projects like this is going around. So
can you give us an example, Jasper, of one or two of you said you've come across it yourself. Could you share your one or two of the main ones that have had the most impact on you, or the most memorable, or
those who worked or those who don't?
Those that worked.
Those that work. Well, let's go back to the case I was talking about in the beginning, right? Because here was a guy head of, as I said, the sustainability area, who's been trying to push this agenda and had some success with it, but really didn't have attention on the top. But what was really critical for the company here was their cost structure. So simply what we went in and did was only looking at stuff that could cut costs and always positioning it like that. So leading with, this is a cost reduction initiative. Oh yeah, and by the way, it will also have some impact, positive impact on our climate targets, right? And that was what led to approval. And after a couple of the things, it was kind of like, oh, this is actually significant sums of money that's going on. So they started paying attention, and they started to travel and go up the ranks. And all of a sudden, it's like the very top is kind of like getting curious because they hear about this initiative that's going on down in one of the one of the companies underneath, and what's this all about, right? So they've been good at sort of pushing the stories up, and then gradually it's kind of like approval moves on, and people started to listen, and we question what else could we do. And it spread from just being, the sustainability people onto the more technical people, which is like, oh, this is interesting. You help me see something, turn waste from waste to a resource and to an opportunity and to a technical challenge, which is like, this is super interesting. So all of a sudden, there are loads of people across the company that are engaged because they are now on a interesting hunt to make what they are good at even better, which is also good for the planet, but that's not really the driver. The driver is either a financial one or it is a personal challenge to be even better at what you do. And for some, of course, it's also the impact side, but for most, that's more like, oh, this is really nice on top of it, but I'm not doing this. And especially the C-suite are not approving this stuff because it has high impact. They're approving it because has significant financial impact. So there are really a lot you can do about this. And I work with many different companies where it's quite easy actually to find ways of cutting costs, simply because this is back to the iceberg. That people don't, this is not something that's been in a focus. And if you remember back to what happened when the Ukraine war started and gas prices went through the roof, well, then all of a sudden it became a strategic priority, and lots of leaders said, okay, all hands on deck, how do we do something about this? And there was just endless stories about how companies, make dramatic reductions in their energy use and shifted around when during the 24 hours manufacturing were, and so on and so on and so on. So much can be done when you have the strategic focus and demand that we need to fix this. But that's not what's happening right now. But that's what you can do if you sort of help it by connecting the dots for the people, for the rest of your decision makers around you, whether that's up or down or what, doesn't really matter. So yeah, so
can I I've just been reminded of something really quickly. I wanted to share this. It's a company that I came across a few years ago, and they're so inspiring. They're called Elvis and Cressy. You were talking about recycling and reusing waste and those sorts of things. And this company is called Elvis and Cressy, and they're based in the UK. And they just had a chance encounter with the London Fire Brigade, and they found out that all of the decommissioned hoses were ended up in landfill. I don't know if you know about this.
Yeah. So, now that you say, I remember they make different types of products out of purses and stuff, right?
They do. They make luxury handbags and luggage. Yeah, they're a fantastic company. And I suppose there's lots of industries and businesses that have waste that actually could be reused and recycled into something else and create a whole new sustainable business from that.
Yes, absolutely. There are lots of that. And I also, well, all of you are following me. So some of you have come across posts where I share about different businesses that come out of exactly sort of turning waste into new products. So you're absolutely right. But thank you for sharing that. Really good example of that, sort of turning it into a a new type of business and that a new type of products, very often that goes in the business to consumer space, but there are also examples of it from the B2B space. So the next little chunk here, this last chunk before it's your time to go to work, is on mindset, and I'll go through this fairly quickly because we have touched upon several of it, but still it's absolutely essential, this sort of mental transformation and change in understanding and perspective around sustainability and what it's all about in a business context. So there are 5, and I call them the fatal 5, that I've been spotting over a decade or so, and put together. And then what are the corresponding 5 to 5? The first one, and we already talked a lot about that, so I'm not going to spend time on that. But rather than starting with, let's fix the sustainability problem, start with let's fix the business problem in a way that also generates impact, because that shifts the focus dramatically, as I've said. Second one is that people have this enormous focus about minimizing the negative impact. But the problem is that it's so, everything in this agenda is basically marinated in guilt, and it's just not an easy thing to get people onto, right? And what's even worse is that the way we talk about this actually makes the problem bigger. I'll just say that again because it's kind of insane. The way we talk about this makes the problem bigger. And I don't know about you guys, but I think it's big enough. Before we have fixed climate change, biodiversity, climate, plastic problems, chemicals, and so on and so on. And, it's fine with me. I think we don't need to make it any bigger. But why is it so? Well, the thing is that if you go back 1,000 years and imagine your ancestors somewhere way back, if somebody came up and were about to take something away from them, a piece of clothes, timber, food, something, what would they do? Well, they would most likely fight for dear life for it, because that's what it might mean. It might mean, the children is going to starve or freeze to death or something. But 1,000 years ago, that was yesterday, evolutionary. So our brains are the same. So whenever we talk about reduce or give up or not having to, or we cannot do, instantly the reptile brain, who's the one running the show, basically says to the more reflective and mature part of the brain, saying, don't do it, it's going to kill the kids. And even though we would like to save the world, and it is nice to think about future generations and all of that, if it means I have to let go of one of the kids, we're not going to do it. Even though they can be freaking annoying from time to time, we actually do most of the time love them quite a lot. So we're not really ready to give them up, right? So when we talk about this, everything related to framing this as a reduction exercise triggers the reptile brain to say, don't do it. So really, really urge you to shift the narrative around. So this is about creating new and better versions, and something that has some sort of positive impact, both in terms of, again, business and impact side. Because when you do that, it's a completely different game. And also it means we land in the part of the brain where imagination sits, because the second you say, what would it look like? What would a new and better version of whatever product you are doing? What would that look like? Well, we cannot stop by kind of our brain automatically starts, well, what would that look like, right? And then we're in the right space. So it makes a hell of a difference to move from this reductionist to an opportunity way of thinking and talking about this. Third one, green products cost more. This has kind of like become a universal law. But I've already shared with you a couple of examples that it doesn't have to be like that. Actually, it can be super profitable. It can be very, very beneficial business-wise to do this. So it doesn't have to be, but it's kind of like the starting point. And if that is the starting point, well, guess what? You will be right. If you say, hey, we're going to develop this new version of our product and it's going to be 10% more costly, and then I can guarantee you're absolutely going to be right. Because again, it's just how the brain works. It will stop. It will go to work on whatever task you give it. And if you give it one where it's okay that it's more costly, well, that's what you're going to get. Of course, it doesn't mean that everything right now can just be fixed and become a quote unquote sustainable version of a product and become cheaper. But very much, again, this is an innovation game. So if you find that I'm just going to try to do the same as always, but just pay the actual price for the raw materials, well, then of course it's going to go up. So you need to innovate, but you need to put that up as the innovation challenge, that I want to have a solution that has some sort of impact and that are at the same or lower price, or at least, the correlation between whatever the price tag is and whatever perceived value the client have. Because very often innovation leads to this becoming a slightly different product. So it's not even fair to say, well, the price tag is higher than before. Yeah, but the value is also higher because we elevated the product, right? So very much an innovation agenda. Fourth one, don't mess with the core business. Again, back to not understanding how to lead this and all of this. Now we need to know that this is a new way of doing things. There's a better way and another way of thinking, running, developing, all of that. And hopefully by now it makes sense why I say this and what I mean. And the fifth and final one is keeping it to yourself. By that I mean that a lot of people, in a lot of companies, it's actually just a relatively few employees who are engaged in the effort, and they tend to hold the cards fairly close to themselves. Also, in the public domain, afraid of greenwashing and all of that. What we need to do is to be open, transparent, and collaborative. This is a team sport. It's not something anybody can do on their own. Not one person, not one division, not one company. And also, this is the best way where you can get onto a fast track, because whatever you need, whether that's ideas, knowledge, capital, whatever, somebody woke up this morning somewhere on the planet having just what you need. So if you keep it all to yourself, well, then you have to develop and create everything yourself. Whereas if you go out and signpost to the world, hey, this is where I am, this is where I want to go, this is what I'm struggling with right now, well, then somebody can come and help you. Right? And they will, because that's the core of what they do. So open, transparent, and collaborative, that's the way forward. So this is the mindset shift that I would really love you to sort of take home as one of the key messages from this session here. So start on end with business, focus on, this is about creating new and better versions that leave a positive impact. Don't buy into the green products is more expensive thing. This is innovate to find solutions that means it at least at par with the current. And realize that this is a way of running business. It's not something you do on the side. It's an integrated part. And then dare to be open and transparent and collaborative. So I'll just stop sharing for a second, because I would like to know, before we then get into the part where you need to do something and focus more on what you could do as next steps. What's your sort of feedback or reflections on the mindset? Do you recognize yourself? Where do you see yourself? Mostly on the left side, the fatal five, or on the right side? And again, you can put it in the chat, or if somebody is, again, might dare to do that horrible thing. 5 to 5, love it. Absolutely amazing, Anna. My new hero. It's as I said, I do this quite a lot and with a lot of different people, and it's so rare that I get to a place where most people say that, well, we're actually on the right side here. We are on the 5 to 5. Most are somewhere in the middle, or kind of stuck in the left side, because that's also where majority of people around us and how we talk about this is talking about this. And let's see here, what we have. Love the opportunity framing versus risk framing. Yes. Thank you, Scott. I'm glad you like it. And absolutely, yes. And it really is a game changer.
Maybe I can add. Can I add?
Sure, you can, Ron.
I love it. I simply love it. I love it as a person, as a human, all these fives. I'm doing many of them, probably not super efficient, but I'm doing them. Yeah. And I'm also curious how to start in companies to see through these lenses at once, because this is like a process of knowing, and probably it's connected with this perceived value, what you said. So we need to find exactly a moment where each company or each leader is, and then use one of these fives, for example, and then as an entrance point to them. So example can be focus on costs, or focus on innovation, or focus on opening more collaborative culture, and
Whatever
am I right? Am I right? So
exactly.
this is probably the way how to approach it. Yeah.
Yes, whatever their focus is, go with that. And then, as you say, I find that very often it's also about, somebody needs to start this. I call this the mental transformation, which comes before the green transformation. So you need to do this first, and often that's also why I start with this when I work with clients, is getting whoever group of people I'm working with, the more the merrier I can get on board, to sort of make that mental transformation, because then everything else get easier on the back of that. So it is actually essential. So we have two people who have raised their hands. I think Scott were first. I'm not 100% sure, but we'll go with you, Scott, and then Swami on the back, and then.
Yeah, one thought of what Roman was talking about, where I think you're saying, in your personal life, you're doing the 5 to thrive, or as many of them as possible. One way to potentially scale that in a business environment is if the solution you're bringing actually helps the employees feel those same 5 to thrive, right? So if you're bringing the sustainability into the employee experience of the people that are like Roman, it's a way that it brings inherent business value to the company.
Yeah,
I agree.
Absolutely true. Yeah, and Swami,
and one thing around that, so basically we need to understand what the company's priorities and capabilities and challenges, and also we can look at like what are the company's corporate social responsibility, CSR, corporate citizenship programs available, and employee resource groups available, and we can even like initiate a new ERGs. Like if you are focused on plantation, probably you can start a ERG around that, or if it's a hunger or education. So we can get involved like with the HR and the CSR team. That would give another opportunity.
Yes, and as long as you're related to what's top of mind in the business, then your odds of succeeding is quite well. All right, I want to just give a very brief introduction to a small exercise, and when I say small, it's also because we, based on the amount of time we have here, it will get you started, but you will get a software tool on the back of this where you can basically complete the exercise. So you're probably aware of the business model canvas. Majority of you, I would guess, have either excel in it or have heard about it. It's a essential piece of most sort of leadership and financial educations around the globe, and has been for, I don't know, I think it's back from the 1960s or 70s, if I remember correctly. Osterwalder developed it, and there are these nine areas. Basically, the way you read it, in case you don't know, just very quickly, far to the right, you have the customer segments. So who are we serving? In the middle, you have the value proposition. What is it that we are offering these people? And then what are the channels? So one to the right, to the bottom there, what are the channels we are delivering this through, and what kind of dialogue do we have with these people? So that's sort of it, and that generates a revenue stream down to the bottom of the right. So that's the entire sort of financial or sort of income side of it. And then to be able to deliver that, well, that's the other side. What is the key resources we need to put together our product or whatever it is, service, whatever we deliver? And what are the key activities? What are we actually doing? And who are the key partners, suppliers, partnerships, various things, whatever you have. And that all together combines the cost structure. And of course, if revenue stream is not bigger than cost, you don't really have a business, but hopefully they are. What I've added to that is what I call an impact dimension. So I've created a long list of questions and focus areas for all 9 brackets that I use to spot where are the opportunities to improve whatever company's business model, because you can put any company into this, actually also public sites, municipalities, whatever you like. You can put anything into this canvas. And then from there on, we can basically start explore where is potential that could be interesting. So that's what I wanted to share with you. And I'm going to give you in a second a PDF, and then I'll have put you out in small groups where you can have a bit of a chat around a couple of these questions. And then on the back of this, I said there's an entire quiz you can take. It's going to take you something like 8 to 10 minutes, but I'll get back to that towards the end. But here, just to give you a couple of examples of what could the questions be, kind of like, okay, who would benefit if our product lasted longer, were easier to repair or to share, or who would be attracted by a more progressive profile? So these are all questions to have you reflect about the status quo. What could be, what are the positive contributions we have? What kind of data do we have or could we have that we could utilize? What would be less risky, our health and safety materials wise? What are we offering? All of that. Channels, well, what is a forward going could also be a backwards. So is there a take back system we can use? Could we deliver smarter some way? What are, could we try to locate waste hotspots in the way we deliver? What is the risk side of this? Could we help them minimize risk as part of our dialogue with them? Or if you go and all of that leads to what are the underutilized revenue streams we have down here, and what kind of revenue streams could we see whether are detached from resource use? Is there something we could do smarter that does not, that will increase our growth and our revenue stream without increasing our material footprint? Over on the delivery side, what are the resources we use today? What's their availability? What's their price? How does that influence? What is where does value and cost occur in the way we deliver? What are the elements in our factory that are, where does the value deliver? Where does the cost emerge? What could we do to optimize that? And on the partner side, what other value chains could we be connecting into? Should we work with NGOs, impact investors, waste brokers to take over, alternative and second pre-used materials? Just as example of questions. So this is a mixture of questions that are directly financially and directly impact oriented, but always with a bit of both. And yeah, of course, down here as well on the cost side. So this is the tool, and as I said, you're going to get access to a quiz on the back where you can go through it in a bit more time. But what I want to do now is just have you go into break. I'll put you out in small breakout rooms, just for like a 5-minute chat where you can actually speak to people without having to think that, oh, I have to be in the main room here and open up. So what I'll do now is I will stop sharing here, and then I will create, how many are we right now? We're about 10, so I'll create 3 breakout rooms, and you have just around 5 minutes or so to discuss it a bit. So you'll just get started, but I do want to give you a chance to go out and do that, and then I'll take you back in here and end the session with a couple of feedback and questions if you have any from the session, and then I'll share you the tool so that you can go home and do this exercise a bit more thoroughly if you like. So for now, I'm gonna put you out in the rooms, and then I'll see you back here in about 5 minutes time. I will call you back, so you don't have to do anything. When I close all the rooms, you'll get thrown back into here. So so just enjoy, and you're automatically assigned. So I don't know who speaks to who. So maybe it's your neighbor, maybe it's the other end of the world. Anyway, I'll see you in 5 minutes time or so. So welcome back. Let's see if we got everybody in. It seems like that. Great, we didn't lose anybody in cyberspace. That's a good day. So So did anybody, you could put it in the chat, did anybody, do you feel like you could use this, even though it's a very sort of just scratching the surface type of exercise here, to get started? Anybody who got anything that they felt like, hey, we've made a bit of progress, you could put it in the chat if you like. I know it was a short period of time, but I wanted to do was to sort of just get you started. And then, by the way, I have around 15 minutes on the back of this. So if somebody have something specifically, could also be tied to this that you wanna ask, and you have time, then I'll be there on the back and have an opportunity to help you as well. So yes, we have a hand. Please go ahead.
So, I'm quite new to the space, but I have realized that making small changes when the quantity is tie up with that, like the smallest change to directly proportional to the quantity. So a big quantity of something, and we just come up with the smallest change that can impact the value, whatever we are providing to the company providing to the customers, and so it can impact the revenue as well as the environment.
Yes. And that's very true. And again, it's back to that cross that I mentioned, I gave you earlier, the costing misalignment, that especially in the early stages, it's so essential to come up with exactly the things that you're saying here, to get people hooked and to get them to see that, this is actually something different than what we're used to thinking around this. So absolutely, absolutely right. Okay. In the interest of time, I'm just going to jump onto the last couple of things I want to give you, including this set of this tool that I mentioned. But what I've shared here today with you really is something that matters greatly to me, and I know sustainability does to many of you. I guess that's why you're here. And for me, it all really started back when I was in my teenage years. I had a class, a geography class in gymnasium, where Tom, our teacher, was talking about how the melting of the ice sheet in Greenland will deteriorate, or back then it was just a theory, the Gulf Stream that brings the warmer water up to Scandinavia and gives us this, well, all in all, fairly warm climate at least. And it could potentially even stop it. And if that were the case, then ironically, global warming, as it was called back then, would lead to the climate we know from Greenland could spread all the way down across Scandinavia. And that was kind of like, holy shit, is this, sorry about my language, is this the magnitude of the experiment that we're running, right? So equally curious and feeling like somebody has to do something. That really got me hooked. So I've been in sustainability ever since. And ever since COP 15 in Copenhagen in 2009, where it became really clear that governments are not the ones who are going to make this happen. They definitely have a role to play. But then in the back of that, I realized that it's businesses that really holds the keys to make the changes that we want to see, and also who has the most to benefit from it. So I've been in that space ever since, and that's basically why I have why I have business with impact. It is to help make all these companies move faster. So if some of you feels like this has been interesting and you want to do more, you want to be able to move faster, then I'm starting something called an impact circle, and there is a wait list for that. You can join if you want. It's one-on-one in groups. It will help you basically do everything we talked about here. So it's me helping and guiding companies of being able to do this. So if you think this is interesting, what you could do is basically just either let me know in the chat or afterwards, either on LinkedIn or on email, by saying, yeah, hey, I would like to hear a little bit more about that, and then we can I'll come back to you and arrange a time where I can explain a bit more. So simply do that if you think that's interesting. And there was also this question from one of you about, how do we get things to move? And the thing is, I think Sanna here is a previous client of mine that went on a 6 months program. And I think she says it really well here, that adjusting my mindset is so much harder than expected. It seems so straightforward when you present it, and I'm sure several of you felt the same when I walked through this just briefly before, but I keep falling back into the old way of thinking. And that's one of the key reasons why I created this program, because it will be an ongoing help to maintain the right focus and find the right initiatives. So just to see that, that's actually one of the reasons for it. But what I want you to do, and what I would really like all of you to do and ask you to do, is to take this business model impact assessment, the one that I've been talking about. It will help you spot the potential. It will walk you through. There are 5 questions for each of the 9 categories. I've chosen 5 of those, and I find this, well, good. It will make you discover things without making it too complicated for you to do on your own. That's at least what I've been aiming for. So I will, any feedback is still very welcome. It's a fairly new product I made. Simple yes, no answers. So you don't need data or calculations or anything. As I said, typically people take 8 to 10 minutes to answer this, completely free. You will receive some customized result instantly, and it will build on everything that we learned today. So I hope you're going to do that. I will send it to you afterwards. And if some of you feel like, well, I want to do it right now, well, then the last slide is going to have the address and a QR code. You can get on it right away. Otherwise, it will land in your inbox once I've sort of got the recordings settled in, either later today or sometime tomorrow, most likely. And well, I just want to end by saying also a bit about why do I do what I do. And I've been known to make the journey towards a more sustainable business easy, fun, and rewarding, and to leave people feeling, more relieved and more proud of what they do. But the reason why I get up in the morning to do this, apart from the fact that I love doing this with people, it is really to get business on the right side of history by becoming a force for good. And that is, I guess you could say, the essence of going through all the stuff that I've been presenting to you today. It will lead to this. It will move business from majority or mainly part of the problem to mainly part of the solution. And that is just absolutely thrilling to be part of. So that's why I get up in the morning. And as I said, I have time for another like 15 minutes or to a quarter past. So if some of you have any specific questions, feel free to hang around. And this is where you can get the assessment, and I will also send it to you, as I said. And then I just saw here a comment, Anna, 20% is enough. I was wondering, 20% out of what? Where does that come from? I must be missing something. Anna, feel free to unmute yourself and explain if there's something here I'm missing about what the 20% is enough of. Okay. It seems like this is a discussion between some of you that I'm not part of. Absolutely fine. So thank you so much for showing up here and for doing whatever it is you're doing, helping to push this. You can find it, as I said, on bmcassessment.scoreapp.com, or you can just follow the QR code, or you can wait and it will show up in your inbox and you can click a link there. Yeah, check the comments above. Yeah, I'll do that in a second. As I said, I'll just stop sharing now. And where is that? So there you go. And then we have around 5 minutes if somebody have any specific questions.